detail and of course understand exactly what is going on away from the Kickstarter discussion. And this particular Take Note, we are reflecting on NSSF's performance and progress ahead of 2023. Of course, the fund is in the news. For the last 2 weeks, there's been a bit of tension after the minister who is responsible said some very, very unnerving statements. But that was cleared following the reappointment of Patrick Ayota as Deputy Managing Director and also Caretaker Managing Director, in light of the fact that there is a bone of contention here and there between the powers that be over the reappointment of the former Managing Director, Richard Byarugaba. But that's a discussion for another day. Here, his immediate focus as a caretaker is immense: taking the fund forward or making sure that the progress that has been registered over the years is maintained. Patrick Ayota, many thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much.
How are you doing?
I'm okay.
And congratulations upon the appointment as Deputy Managing Director.
It's been an honor.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
We are into a period of economic uncertainty. It's not something I want to put you on the spot too. But before we get down to the nitty-gritty of NSSF's performance and the initiatives you're rolling out, including the NSSF High Innovator Women Accelerator Program, just give us an overview of right now where we are in terms of economic activity.
I think one of the things that has happened the last 10 years is actually building the fund into now a stable, largest financial institution in East Africa. Okay. And with that now, it allows us now to begin to think through some of the things we can do differently to actually align the activities we do with the National Development Plan, with Uganda's Vision 2040. For example, when we look forward to 2040, and it ties in very well with the High Innovator, one of the aspirations that Ugandans we have that has been defined under Vision 2040 is a prosperous country that has evolved from being a peasant country. Underneath that is basically aspirations for increased household income driven by creation of jobs and wealth. So you find when you have that overall arcing aspiration of Ugandans, then we as a fund, we now begin to look at what specifically, deliberately can we do that do three things: protect the fund, grow the fund, and yet support the aspirations of Ugandans. So against that background, you'll find that a lot of activities that we had started to do and that we're going to do speak to that, which is the very address towards what the High Innovator Program is all about.
Okay. We shall, of course, be delving into the High Innovator Program and what it means for the women, especially in light of the need to advance ownership of businesses by this particular agenda. Allow me again ask, with regard to the performance of the fund, over the last 2 years, we've seen a disbursement of a staggering 460 billion Uganda shillings to savers who qualify under the new arrangement. There were concerns before that much of the money, if taken away, would cause a dent. How was this managed?
Actually, no. The issue wasn't so much of a dent. The issue was the matter of liquidity. In other words, in coming up to the end of last year and then the beginning of the year, when the actors are set into by the president to deliver midterm to our members, we actually knew that we needed to have some monies available for liquidity, which meant that whatever monies we collected or whatever monies that was then received back, we did invest it in long-term bonds. The disadvantage is long-term bonds have higher interest rates.
That's right.
Than short-term bonds. So we put most of this money in short-term bonds, maybe 3 months, 1 month, so in anticipation of when members would come for their money. So the impact on it was the rates that we could have provided much earlier are higher because we had invested them in short-term bonds in anticipation of the members coming for their money. That was the only impact in it. But otherwise, in terms of the readiness of the fund to deliver that, I can tell you two numbers that sometimes we don't even pay attention to. The whole of last year, 2021, we paid about 25,000 members 440 billion shillings over a space of 12 months.
12 months.
In a space of 2 months, March and April this year, we paid 22,000 members the midterm, the 400 150 billion shillings. The amount is staggering, but in the context of the fund, it tells you that the fund had actually grown to be able to do that.
All right, no doubt about that. At 17 trillion, 460 billion is, well, more like something very small.
And it's our money. It's our money as Ugandans.
So what is the NSSF High Innovator Women Accelerator Program?
Yeah. Let me step back a bit and you'll see how then that fits in.
Yeah, okay.
About 3 years ago, we did a projection. We said that NSF grows in 2 ways. It grows when new members join. New members can only join when they have jobs.
Yes.
So there's a direct correlation between jobs created and the ability for the fund to grow.
Yeah.
But the country wasn't creating enough jobs. So we looked at the job ecosystem and realized that globally, the entities that grow jobs the fastest are small businesses, small and medium growing business.
That's right.
So we said, let's intervene in that place. Let's see if we can intervene and help small and growing businesses have a chance to take off. And in Uganda, the rate at which businesses die or ideas die is just high. So we decided, okay, let's now experiment with High Innovator. Identify young people, both men and women, who have got good ideas with potential to scale up, potential for impact.
That's right.
Potential for profitability, and we invest in them. So that was the High Innovator.
That was High Innovator.
So we take them through an academy, and after the end of that, they make a pitch to a panel of eminent local business people. And they say, okay, this idea, try it, and so on. So our first funding was actually Feb this year. Our second funding was October. So in total, 105 startups that we've actually identified to invest in.
That's right.
And we have a partner, MasterCard Foundation, because then they matched what we did, which was great. What we noticed that over the last 2 funding cycles, the 105, less than 35% of those have been women. And we realized, no, we can't approach it the same way in general. Women entrepreneurs face different challenges. Can we do something different? So the next cohort is now all focused on women-led, women-owned businesses. And we hope we can find 100 startups, basically intervene, putting about 75 million shillings in them to help them get ready for the next level when they can pitch their businesses, or they're even ready now to expand by getting loans and so on. So that is the background to us.
Yes. Now, when it is ring-fenced to 100 beneficiaries, you begin to think that some that might actually need this kind of funding might not be able to get it. Already the World Bank says up to women-led businesses don't make as much profit like their male counterparts by up to 30%. And that's a staggering figure. Now, when you ring-fence it to 100, it's very likely that the urban females could make it to this particular cohort and not, well, the urban poor or those in the rural areas. How has this been factored in? Actually,
we've kind of democratized the process. For example, when we look at some of our last participants, we have some of the ladies who came from Iganga. We have some women who have come from Arua. So it is there, and we have a support network across the country. We use Outbox as our major implementing partner. And we've now had we've signed up 10 hubs, including Stanbics and so on, in different parts of the country.
That's right.
So if somebody needs and has, there's actually a place where they can go, whether you need internet services to be able to connect, whatever you need. So there is at least what we've done. Yeah, you will not solve every problem. You will not reach every woman. We know that. But let's start somewhere. Then next season, we then expand. We learn, we get lessons we learned, I apply it to it.
Okay, that's very interesting and something, of course, that you can look out for, especially if you are a woman there that owns a business and you are, of course, formally registered and doing business the right way. It is not a case of, hey, I have my small thing, I've not registered for the last 1 year, I'm reluctant, NSSF is my miracle. No. That is not what it is.
No. Except if they, as long as they are willing to go through the academy, we have an academy. What we learned before was a lot of entrepreneurs are tunnel focused. This is my idea. This is my app.
This is how I want it.
This is how it's done. But sometimes they forget that to make a business successful, you need other supporting elements.
That's right.
Management skills, marketing, customer service, pricing. So the module takes you through all this. So you as a business owner now have a comprehensive view of what you need for your business.
Okay.
You can come in and join you without being registered. But by the time you're done with that, you should have registered to be able to pitch.
All right. Earlier you spoke about the fact that NSSF is the largest financial institution in East Africa. That is at, what's the capitation? 17 trillion?
Almost 18 trillion.
18 trillion
by now.
Trillion.
Yes.
Yeah, that is no doubt very huge. Now that calls for broadening of services that are being offered. There are Ugandans who are already concerned about the fact that they can't afford mortgages and neither can NSSF come in to help. How is this being handled?
One of the things that we're actually blessed with the midterm, people focus a lot on the clauses regarding midterm when the act was amended. But the country gave us an opportunity as an SSF. There were other things that that piece of legislation came with.
That's right.
For example, in terms of coverage, whereas in those days, an employee who was working for less than 5, with an employer with less than 5 workers was disadvantaged in that they couldn't save with NSF. Now they can, which was a big piece of legislation. The other one was now made it that now voluntary people can save. You can now come in as a boda rider, you can come out. Right. But what we realize that somebody who is riding his boda and so on is not going to be like you and me. His income patterns are very different.
Yeah, very
He's
different.
earning on a daily basis. His needs are slightly different from yours. So what we do, what we're producing now is basically what we call products that kind of meet different sectors. For example, I'll give you an example that what we want to do is for a saver who is a boda rider, or he sells granuts, that we can say, you can save 1,000 shillings a day. That is 5,000 shillings a week. But out of that, part of that will go to give you some cover. So if you have a catastrophe, and you're hospitalized, there's some cash cover.
There's some cash cover.
That you come. So you begin to package different products to cater that.
Allow me to understand it effectively. In other words, a voluntary saver like a boda or a mom and pop shop owner and operator is not constrained by the fact that when you save, you have a set time within which you're allowed to get some of the benefits.
No, actually one of the things that we want to do is to kind of say, okay, we want to encourage a member to save long term. But then we've broken it into, we are breaking into what we call goals that you have, say 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, with the flexibility to basically be able to move it. But that allows people then to know that, okay, I've saved, I don't have to wait until I'm 55. In 3 years' time, I had an idea, a goal, I can now go back and do what? And use that for that purpose. So it's more flexible than the mandatory side that you have.
Okay.
Now, when you come to the area of housing, which has been amazing.
Very important.
The mortgage structure in this country, the interest rates, they do not help somebody acquire property. We're experimenting with a couple of things. One, rent to own. That while we're waiting for things to change, you can get into a property now and rent. After a number of years, 7 or 10 years, you've built enough equity. Now you can convert that to own it. Your same house that you have. And that you don't have to worry too much about being burdened trying to qualify for financing right away, bring down payment right away. No, you come in as a tenant, but it's your unit that you'll convert later. We think as we do that, you enable some people who may not have been able to come in and they can then get there. The time things are right, the time when the environment is right, you can now become what? You can do that. Second, we're now looking at the way you build. How
what
do you
are
actually
you using?
Because what are you using?
Materials.
Exactly, because it's expensive. And we're engaging now the government. Some proposals that the government actually is considering, tax considerations. Because by the time that building is up, the number of things in there that make that house very expensive and out of reach for most Ugandans. If we can deal with some of those things, alternate technologies, tax waivers, maybe we have where the government can help us participate, third-party infrastructure, then the price of housing will be affordable to most Ugandans. But it's a very joint effort. NSF can't do it alone because there are other parts of it that we cannot do. Then lastly, one of the pieces of legislation that we are going to have, which was provided for in Parliament, is where somebody can use his savings, not to pay the mortgage, But to de-risk the mortgage, how do you do that? You have 200 million shillings with an SSF. You can use 50% of that as collateral on a loan.
On a loan.
So the bank not only has the house as collateral, they also have the savings as collateral. It doesn't leave the fund. We still invest it. You still get interest. But the bank has comfort that if things don't work out, they can fall back on this position. We think that should do two things. One, now suddenly you are less risky to the bank. So the bank should be able to give you a reduction in rates. Number two, which is the biggest bottleneck, you go to a bank today, they say we need 20% down payment before they give you a loan. Okay, now we've de-risked this whole thing. Why do you need 20%? Maybe you only need 3% or 5%. So we remove barriers that people would buy. We would actually do that. So that's kind of where we approach. So it's multi-approach to trying to resolve those problems.
All right, as we enter the final bend of the discussion, allow me go into economic strains globally that could be, of course, responsible for many of the inflationary pressures that we are facing as a country. And that has a way it trickles down into the interest rates and the ability for people to be able to make some money. For this particular case, the savers, the latest interest rate wasn't very glossy. There was a bit of a reduction. And there are fears that this kind of pressures could again condition the same reduction in the coming disbursements.
I mean, the global pressures, when you look at what's happening across the globe, whether it is the Ukraine war impacting agriculture and the grain, or you're looking at fuel and so on, those are having an impact on Uganda. Now, what's happening in Uganda, though, you'll find that the rates have kind of gone back up. You find your long-term rates are going back up. And what we're doing is taking advantage of that so we can invest now as the rates are still high. So that we can mitigate what's happening in terms of people taking their money, but now we've got a bit of higher rate. So my concern is not so much about that. I think this year was a bit, because we made a deliberate position to provide for liquidity, we couldn't invest and should not have invested, and we did not invest in long term. We did shorter term deliberately so we could meet the liquidity needs. Now people are still coming for their midterm, but now it's business as usual. Now it's part of it, so now we can go back to that trajectory. So my concern is nobody can predict the future. Nobody knows whether the past is a reflection of the future, but at a minimum we do our level best to make sure that members' returns are protected.
All right, Mr. Patrick Ayota, give me your last words on this and wrap this conversation up.
I think two things that the members who are out there, just let you know that the fund is strong, the fund is stable. We have plans to be serious players in this country, making a difference in the lives of ordinary Ugandans. We have a lot of intelligent, clever, as Richard used, like clever young people. We're coming up with ways of trying to see how do we work through all these things so that it's the one thing I'm proud of as a Ugandan is this is our institution.
That's right.
The money we've saved is our money. And anybody who thinks that Ugandans can't do things right, you actually need to look at NSF. We are not perfect. We have our own issues, so we're not perfect. But
that's right.
By the way, I think we've done pretty well.
I'm afraid I'm going to have to amend the discussion. I had told Mr. Patrick Ayota to do a wrap, but then in his wrap, he talked about something that I think should be addressed. Young people and being at the forefront of some of the advancements and plans that you're up to. Makerere University Business School. There is, away from the Women Accelerator Program, what is there for them in terms of being part and parcel of Uganda's, the figuring out how to go forward?
The Makerere Business School is actually one of our hubs.
Your hub?
Yes, they helped us actually in draft the curriculum that we have. So they're already part and parcel of what we're trying to do.
That's what I want to know. How are they, what is the kind of collaboration and where is it taking us?
What's taking us? Because what happens is when you get a number of entrepreneurs, the idea is to assign them to the closest hub to where their business is operating. So we have a number of them who are now being supported by MOOBs. And there's constant collaboration with, with Professor Balunywa. They have a whole team that, because they have actually an innovation center out there. So it works. By the way, in Makerere University, we're doing the same thing with them. You find that like Mbale ICU, Mbale IUIU is part of it. So because we know we can't do it by ourselves.
That's right. The reason I was asking is because in the West, many institutions, especially schools of business, are part and parcel of many of the institutions when it comes to figuring out how to manage the economy. All right, Patrick Ayota, many thanks for making time for the discussion. We are emboldened by your submissions and, of course, the insights on how the National Social Security Fund is performing. Of course, just again, that is the new, not new, reappointed Deputy Managing Director at NSSF, who is also caretaking as the appointment of an MD is awaited. That will do it for the discussion. I'm Chris Higenyi. Let's now go to Stephen Mbide, who is at Namaiba Bus Park.